Right, hello everybody, and welcome back to Between Two Fans. And it is another episode where we get to basically abuse my co-host Dan Scholtz for the wild season that Liverpool is currently having. And every single time we jump back on this podcast, it just gets progressively worse. But basically, what we're really here to do is just chat sport with a bit of a South African bias to it. We're going to be talking rugby, cricket, football, a little bit about the Masters last week and a general sports catch-up with a little bit of humor, hopefully, a little bit of banter throwing it around there. It is myself, Stevie P, and Mr. Dan Scholtz. And Mr. Dan Scholtz, sounds like a bit of a tough week going on over there. Are you all right? Are you okay?
Yeah, a deep breath, Stevie, one step at a time. It's, I'm at an all-time low right now. I think this cyclops in the middle of my forehead is just the beginning of my issues when it comes to, not even getting to watch the Stormers this weekend. Then just think about Liverpool's last week. Once you forget, Stevie, and I don't even want to get started on the predictions and my recent.
Well, I think you might as well compound your misery. Like, whilst not to kick a man while he's down, but to kick a man while he's down. Should we go through them?
Let's do exactly that. Get it over and done with. So, if you're new around here, this is a segment that Stevie and I do where essentially we each make predictions and Stevie gets it right and I get it wrong. But
the stats don't lie.
We're working. I have a lot to blame and I don't think I can be lower than this moment. So, you have to hit rock bottom to turn things around. And I think that's what might have just happened this last week. But getting into it, our first match was Northampton versus the Bulls. At the time of recording, Stevie, we did not know that the likes of Currie, Willie LaRue, Canan Moody weren't going to be flying over to England on all, not one of the 8 flights were carrying the Springboks. So the Bulls suffering a 59-22 defeat there to the Premiership leaders. Stevie, your prediction was Saints by 5. Mine was Saints by 2. I say you've just hugged me there at the bottom. I recall going first, and essentially anything more than 2 was a win for you. Nonetheless, congratulations. Game 2 was the Challenge Cup, Edinburgh versus Sharks. Sharks hosting them in Durban and playing a really good game. I covered that on live on Forever Sports, and they were clear ahead by must have been 20 points or so in the last 8 minutes, only for them to let in 2 more tries with the end score being 30 points to 36. Stevie, I thought I had this one in the bag with Sharks by 10, but your Sharks by 7 has just pipped me. So that's yours again. So it's 2-0, and 2 out of the 3 already gives you the win. But if that's not enough, we bet it on the Masters. And I'd like to give us a little clap, Scotty Scheffler. I mean, us and the whole world. It doesn't take a genius.
Can't take too much credit, pretend we know too much what's going on. It's a pretty safe bet.
Yeah, about as safe as they come. But your picks of John Rahm and Neiman were closer to the top than my picks of
not
Koepka
great picks
and Hovland. I mean, Rahm and Koepka tied for 45th place at 9 over. Neiman tied for 22nd at 4 over. Good performance, and good shout from you. To be fair, he had a decent knock around there. And my boy Victor Hovland, absolutely. Blowing the lights out and not making the cut at 8 over after 2 days. I'm not sure if you saw the clip, but he was pretty much just playing putt-putt by the end of it.
Yeah, that last screen you can see he was over it, which is very uncharacteristic for him.
Very uncharacteristic. That means he's probably going to win this weekend. I love my Norwegian boy, Victor. But a great Masters. Pity there was Scheffler wasn't driven all the way to the end there. I thought Homer might just continue sinking a couple more putts. I thought Bryson was going to stay in the mix, holing out on the last hole of day 3 as well to really take a bit of momentum. But, I mean, Scotty Scheffler, he is just so cool, calm and collected, and just looks like golf is a real hobby to him.
Yeah, look, I mean, they're saying this is the best. It's a Tiger run. It's if you look at some of the best runs in golf, this is up there with some of the best that Tiger's had. It's up there with what we saw from Rory McIlroy in the beginning of his career. So there's no more doubts. I don't think there ever were, but I mean, he's just a class above the rest at the moment. I really enjoyed Aberg. I mean, debut Masters to come 4 shots off from winning from the lead is an
not
hell of an
debut
effort.
Master, I mean debut major as well.
Yeah.
Insane.
So to be able to do that as well was very cool from him. Tommy Fleetwood has, if you look at his last few majors appearances, lots of top 10s, lots of top 5s. So, and something I'm so desperate for him to win a major. So maybe he can just sneak one there.
Or for me, after Hovland, the most likable guy on tour. I mean, just what is there to hate about him? And he wasn't actually with his caddy. I'm not sure if you saw, but his caddy stayed at home, so he had the local professional at the Augusta Country Club, Augusta National, to help him out and just join for the week. Apparently they'd met before, and I think they figured out that the caddy would have racked in a sweet $80,000 or something to that.
No, not terrible for 4 days of work, eh?
Not terrible at all. Got to take your chances, as they say. But Stevie, big rugby weekend, quarterfinals of the Investec Champions Cup is finished. Most notable shock was the Harlequins beating Bordeaux away from home in just the most electric atmosphere. French rugby is just in a bit of a different league when it comes to the atmosphere that they generate at their stadiums. Other results were Leinster beating back-to-back champs and getting the revenge against La Rochelle, 40 points to 13, to lose with a blowout win against Exeter, 64 points to 26, and Northampton, again, as we mentioned, beating a B team, Bulls, 59 points to 22. Stevie, let's start with that Harlequins game. I mean, no one really predicted that one.
Yeah, and I was absolutely mentioned. I was in a pub at the time and catching up with an old mate. So it was kind of like keeping an eye on it. And every single time you looked up, it was just like a different score, and it was just Harlequins ahead, Bordeaux ahead, Harlequins ahead, Bordeaux ahead. It was like the most mental game to watch. And this Harlequins side, I mean, I suppose the fact that the gestures, the logo is just so appropriate that you just don't know what to expect from them. Some days they're one of those teams I like to describe as, I think on their day, lots of teams can beat them, and on their day they can beat anybody. They've got some Mavericks in that team. Good to see Andre Estes playing good rugby. Tyron Green, who's somebody I think a lot of people have forgotten about. Yeah. And he had another terrific game, so he's putting himself up there. There's quite a few staffers in that Harlequins side.
So it's cool to see them. Those Tyron Green comments from, I think it was last week after his man of the match performance. The reporter asked Tyron, so what is your allegiance? England or South Africa? And he says, South Africa for now.
For now. Yeah. Which I don't like. A lot of people get upset about it. I don't really mind that sort of attitude. I mean, I think, everybody wants to play for South Africa, but at the end of the day, international rugby is international rugby. And just like I've got no resentment against any of the Scottish guys, if he's putting in performances week in, week out, and, all indications are he's not even on the radar, and Steve Borthwick phones you and says, listen, you could be my starting fullback at the World Cup in 2 years' time.
Yeah.
Are you really going to turn that down?
No, I think the opportunity to play international rugby overrides, any kind of allegiance to South Africa, because you only really have one career. You might be around waiting. It's not exactly like Tyron Green's got Rusty Russ's number and going to be like, listen, are you going to pick me or what's the vibe?
And he's not saying no to the Box. He's not getting a call up and saying no. I'd rather play for England.
Yeah, but I think with that comment, he's teased it a little bit for now.
Well, I think, but I enjoy that as well. I think it's, listen, I'm out here playing my rugby, but I'm not going to hang around, So, if I'm on your radar, then let me know I'm on your radar, because if you don't, then I'm going to look elsewhere. So I don't massively mind the comment. I think a lot of people have a bit of a meltdown about it. I think South Africans in particular just never gotten their heads around South Africans playing for other teams, which for me is just a weird thing to get upset about. I mean, you see it so often in so many different sports and stuff like that. And the world's become such a small place. I don't really have much of an issue with it. I certainly don't resent any of the Scottish players, for example, and stuff like that. I don't sit there looking at Paul Willemse going, he's a traitor because he plays for France. If people make decisions and they go over and they get the opportunities, then great.
Yeah, it would be a different story, I think, if we weren't good, right?
Yes, yes.
If we were shite, then we would be saying the exact opposite and saying, how dare they, come play at home, this, that, and the rest of it.
But then
Like,
chances are, if we were
Islanders.
bad, then they would be choosing not to play for us. They'd be actively choosing not to
Well, I
represent
think that's
us.
the point, right? We would
Yeah.
need them more, whereas now it's a case of not made the selection criteria. Alas, we digress. But what a game that was!
Mm.
Luca missing a kick with a couple minutes to go, but it was just back to back. Most of these games, the amount of points scored, just
Yeah.
ridiculous. Everyone kind of forgetting how to defend for a second. But geez, what a spectacle of rugby it was!
Yeah, once again, home advantage proving key. Bordeaux being the only one that went down just by 1 point. Apart from that, 3 big wins across the other quarterfinals and all home ground advantage. Should we talk about the Bulls and the disrespect to the Champions Cup and showing why the Champions Cup will never work and should never invite South African teams and everything wrong with the competition, and apparently now it's all just means nothing because the Bulls dared to send some non-Springboks over to Northampton. It's been a big talking point. Scholtz, where are you sitting with this whole sort of debacle? Are you on Jake's White's side? Do you think this shows you why this competition is not sustainable? What's the chat?
It's definitely sustainable. I think. I listened to Courtney Laws on the Rugby Pod this morning, and he even reckons that in the build up, he reckons that there weren't 8 flights. He reckons that South Africa Rugby was trying to throw off the Saints, and the whole flights thing was just completely blown out of proportion, and we were doing that to throw off Saints. So it's just this underlying narrative, I think, with South African rugby that we're up to no good all the time, and that there's always a plan that's undercover, and you kind of get like a little bit of insight. We do things a little bit weirdly, and that stemmed from kind of this Rusty era, right? Even just down to the way that we cover up cameras and we practice indoors and use video games and stuff like that. Just like use Rusty as a water boy. It's these different tactics, and now the club rugby world is exposed to this. South Africa as well. Do I think the Bulls should have sent a string side? I think that's up to Jake White to decide. He chose not to. I would have loved them to, because I think that would have made for an unbelievable game. And I'm incredibly disappointed that they didn't, because they were South Africa's last real opportunity to go far in the competition, or not real opportunity, their only opportunity to go far in the competition. So I'm very disappointed that they didn't, especially because I think they have URC qualification in the bag, but they clearly want to make sure that they get that home semi-final, and a lot is riding on that fixture that they have now this weekend versus Munster, because essentially that's what they're competing for right now, is that home semi-final.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me is that Jake White said basically beginning of the season that they can't win the Champions Cup. He's basically said that for South African teams to try and win the Champions Cup, you've got to go away for that semi-final. It won't necessarily be at the home stadium, but it'll be in Europe. So you're going to play against Toulouse or Leinster, in Europe, or even if you get to a final and stuff like that. So I think quite early on they were quite realistic. I think for me, and this is apparently the article where all the talks about they're going to get sanctioned. First of all, there's no ways you can sanction them, because at the beginning of the season, you've got your squad of 40 players, and how you choose to use those 40 players is the coach's prerogative.
Yeah, well, what an embarrassing.
Imagine like that they're going to investigate, potentially sanction. Imagine a football team gets sanctioned because they choose to rotate a few players in a Europa League clash or something like that. It's about spending resources. The whole point of having a squad.
Do the exact same for Leon, who came and visited the Bulls with the B-string team as well. Do the exact same for Leinster, who play a B-string team in half of the URC games. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a...
look at the Lions versus Benetton, and they sent over a B side, but nobody complained because it was a pretty close game and because they're the Lions. They're not that high profile.
What are you going to use as your objective truth of the quality of a player? Like how many followers on LinkedIn they have. LinkedIn, Instagram. It's just a ridiculous argument to get to. And I don't think anyone is really taking that seriously. I hope no one's really taking that seriously. But the as I said, I think Jake White, he made the right decision. He saw he was going to go away, come home to Munster, and then because South African teams can't host semi-finals or a final, we were going to go away again to whoever we were going to play in the semi-final. And he just said, absolutely not. Like, I would weigh, like, the chances, even if I get through, I'm playing Leinster, who I want to beat in the URC. So he's essentially chosen, okay, we're going to probably have to beat Leinster. I'm going to pick the URC to do that in, which they've already done 2 seasons ago, by the way.
Yeah. So I think they basically said they want to win the URC. And if they do win the URC, I think his decision gets completely vindicated. You know, I think if you sit there and say, well, we're walking over the URC, then no one's going to sit there and say, oh, but you went out of the Champions Cup. I mean, you look at Leinster, they haven't won either in a number of years here. You know, they've never won a URC. They haven't won the Champions Cup in a while. So, you know, prioritizing the competition, you know, for a team like the Bulls, who I think are still building, and this is the whole point about the South African teams, that they're building squads so that they can eventually be competitive. I mean, you look at the Sharks, for example. You know, they're in a situation where moving forward, they could leave behind a Bongi Benambi, a Oxenchair, and Vincent Koch, and still take Trevor Nyakane, Intuko, you know, and some really good players. Obviously, that's kind of what the Sharks are trying to build, that kind of 35 star quality kind of Leinster type depth where they can make decisions where they can leave 8 or 9 players at home and still have 8 to 9 quality players. That's kind of the whole point of, you know, the rebuild currently happening in South African rugby. So for me, it's time. It's the second year we're in this damn competition. Like, can we just chill? Also, it's a scheduling thing. If this game happened 2 weeks' time and we had, you know, more time to prepare, then chances are, whether they were or, you know, whether, I mean, I don't think it was quite as much as Courtney Law was saying that it was sort of cooked up, but that there definitely were travel issues. If you had more time to plan around sort of travel, then maybe they could have sent a stronger team, for example. So I think the format of the Champions Cup needs to change anyway. And if they can look at trying to sort of accommodate more sort of time and stuff like that from a logistics point of view, then that becomes quite an easy way to just enhance the competition. But we're 2 years in from having South African teams, so this whole thing of it's a failure and stuff like that. I mean, we had a team in the quarterfinals. You know, you look at the games to come, and in the final 4, for example, there is only one English team. So 2 English teams. There's only one French team and one URC side. So it's not like, you know, Ireland was just this dominant force and had like all these various teams. They only had one
if there were no South African teams making the quarterfinals, you could understand. It's like, well, what's going on here? Like, now you really don't care because you're not even competing in the group stages. But
and Sharks are in the Challenge Cup semis. You know, so they're not just taking part; they're adding value. They're getting there.
Exactly. And we're at a point where, you know, we can't compete salary-wise with the likes of the French, like come even closer, even like, you know, Leinster. So we kind of have to pick one of the others. Sharks are completely down and out in the URC, but they've said pretty much out loud, Challenge Cup is what we want to win the season. We don't care about the URC anymore because it's a lost cause. So that's their best way of getting into the Champions Cup for next season.
Yeah, exactly. So you know, we could have, and so if the Lions clutch up, for example, we could have all 4 South African sides in the Champions Cup next season, and then have a cheetah side in the Challenge Cup. So, you know, just we'll get there, boys.
Now we must rely on Lions to play well. We're asking a lot of the listeners here to buy into this.
Well,
this project
they're about to beat Leinster on Saturday to go into that top 8. So don't you stress.
Okay. I think the Leinster under 23s maybe. Stevie, before we move on, there's been a bit of conversation about viewership. And while we're on the topic of South Africa, South African teams coming into the rugby scene, showing that Super Rugby Pacifica has actually shown higher YouTube viewership in their highlights than the URC, then the Champions Cup. A lot of people speculating that it's still the South Africans keeping an eye out on the New Zealand and Australian, past enemies or club enemies rather. What's your take on all of it?
Well, I think it's been no secret that South Africa brings the biggest TV audience, or one of the biggest TV audiences in the world when it comes to rugby. and we've seen it from a stadium perspective. For example, the numbers have been really good this season from a in stadium audience. And since the four South African sides have joined the URC have had back-to-back record-breaking seasons. And you look at the top most watched games in the URC last season, 9 out of 10 of them featured a South African side. Only 1 out of the 10 didn't, and that was Leinster versus Munster, which was in ninth. Lions versus Leinster drew more viewers last season than Leinster versus Munster. So it shows you the power of the South African audience, which is why they want to make the Champions Cup work and the Challenge Cup work and the URC works, because it's easy for a journalist or an English rugby fan to sit there and say, oh, well, they're not from here, they shouldn't be here. The financial gain that you get from South Africa from a fan point of view and a viewership point of view is massive. I think looking at that YouTube thing from Super Rugby, I think that's more effective of the fact that people are not watching it as religiously live. I must admit, I don't watch a lot of Super Rugby these days. If it's on and I'm by a TV, I'll turn it on. But I might go and sit there and say, well, the Sailors played Hurricanes. Let me just catch up with that on YouTube. I think that seems to be quite a common sort of viewership type of thing, where people are they're not invested enough to go and watch 6 Super Rugby games during the weekend, but they'll flick on the highlights on a Monday afternoon. I think a lot of the worlds are still sort of keeping a one eye on it, but not that invested in it.
Yeah. And I mean, we've already seen the announcement of Geordie Barrett coming over from Super Rugby to Leinster. I mean, just as if Leinster need any more help in their team, just add one of the best players in the New Zealand outfit, and if not that, the world, into your team for another 6-month loan. And I think we're going to see a lot more of those. I think the whole of Super Rugby, to be honest, is kind of looking over his shoulder now, and they have been for the last 2 years now that South Africa is out of the competition because of not just the viewership, but just the quality, I think, that we brought to that competition. So obviously, for New Zealanders, they still have kind of the contract in place that you have to be contracted with the local union to be able to represent the national team, unlike South Africa. And there's a lot of conversation now about how the English are going to go forward with that, with a lot of people going over to France. Most notably Owen Farrell, the captain, opting to do that with still a couple of years left, and he could definitely be playing at the international level. So it's interesting to see how I think the world of rugby is navigating kind of just the dispersion of players, clubs, and club and international matches themselves. Obviously the Club World Cup just being announced. Everyone's kind of find a grip, and no one's too sure what the future holds and where people will be. So I think there's going to be a lot of movement at the moment, and I think South Africa kind of sit in the middle where we can pick and choose where we want to be because of how strong our audience is.
Yeah, I think it's. I'm just so curious to see what's going to happen in the next World Cup cycle. You've got Australia Rugby, which is in the dumps. They've got everything they need to try and revive it in terms of a British and Irish Lions tour, a World Cup. But Super Rugby Pacifica is just not attracting the interest that they really hoped it would. At the same time, the financial muscle of the European sides is only getting bigger. And now we're seeing, the Premiership are seeing it from the French side. I mean, French rugby is really showing the template, French and Japanese rugby, to be fair, of how to be sustainable. Because you look at the Premiership, the money, and all the Premiership sides are all busy going bankrupt. So the Premiership's currently unstable, which is why I always laugh at a Stephen Jones, for example, who is, Premiership diehard UK journalist, and he continuously slams the URC. And you sit there going, well, the URC is profitable. It's, teams are not, going barely up in mid-season, stuff like that, so it's a weird competition to go after. But so I think that we are going to see a much bigger global game. I mean, England players are all making moves to France, players in their peaks, their powers as well, you look at Narundle going to wrestling and rooting himself out of England for the time being. You're seeing Welsh players and the sort of the collapse of the Welsh system. A lot of people are complaining about the Irish system now, given the fact that whole central contract system is basically just continuously reinforcing the Leinster dominance, and people are saying that it's not working because they're saying, look at all the central contracts, and like 70 to 80% of them are all Leinster players, and yet they still can sign a Geordie Barrett because they've now got money being freed up by these central contracts to go and bring in a Geordie Barrett, an Arcus name. And what about and Ulster, who are in financial strife. So there's so many different broken segments within the rugby world, but at the same time, there are so many success stories as well happening around. So I think we're about to see a massive reshuffle in the rugby world order. And I think that what we're seeing now is going to be completely different to what we're going to see by the time we get to the 2027 World Cup.
Yeah, I think very difficult to kind of know where that is. I think each country is trying to have the most growth outside, but also make sure that the local unions are still intact. That's why it's so important, like for South Africa, to keep competitions like the Currie Cup strong and incentivize, I think, people outside of just the four big teams to be able to, get the limelight outside of just the Currie Cup. I think there should be promotion relegation. I know you're not for that, but I think that's a whole debate for another day, because we've been yappering about rugby for some time now. So let's get into the football, Stevie. Obviously, as we speak,
what a weekend for us!
Yeah, what a weekend for us. Let's quickly start. Well, as we speak, the Man City versus Real Madrid games and Bayern Munich versus Arsenal has just kicked off the second leg of the semi or quarterfinals of the Champions League. They both are tied,
effectively 0-0.
Obviously, last night, big win for PSG after a red card for Barcelona in the first half, going on to win that game 4-1 and 6-4 on aggregate, and a massive win for Dortmund, who've gone to the semi-finals for the first time in a number of years, coming back from 2-1 behind on aggregate to win the whole game 4-2 and 5-4 on aggregate. Again, much like the Champions Cup, Stevie, people are forgetting how to defend. Just goals. Hopefully more.
I know you talk about playoff games and how they're supposed to be close and stuff like that. And I mean, we had 2-2 and 3-3 in the first leg of the City Madrid, and then last night we had a 4-1 and a 4-2. So it's maybe it's the new generation. There's no such thing as these close playoff games. Everyone just kind of goes balls to the walls.
Yeah, don't tell Jose Mourinho, because
maybe this is why he's struggling these days.
This is not his era, Britt. This is not his era.
He needs to go back to the early 2000s.
Yeah, but reflecting on the Premier League this weekend, Stevie, some crazy upsets. First of all, kicking off the weekend with Newcastle thumping Spurs 4-0 at home, really rocking that title race, and that was only exacerbated by Villa going away to Arsenal, getting a 2-0 win. Arsenal, and that was they were following a disaster class from Liverpool, losing 1-0 to Crystal Palace, who were even kind of edging their way towards almost a relegation scrap, probably freeing themselves up from that now with those 3 points. But just capitulation, what it looks like at the moment between Liverpool and Arsenal. I mean, Liverpool within the space of 2 weeks looked like they could have, were confidently getting at least 2 trophies this season, and now it looks like the Carapoa Energy Drink Cup is probably only thing we're going to get, with City clutch and bringing out the 5-1 win as they now lead the league.
Yeah, weird actually, and I think again, it's funny how and look, we're yet to be vindicated. There's still a few rounds to go, but we kept talking about the fact that I never thought, unless Arsenal the 4-5 point lead, I just looked at the run and thought that there's so much space for Arsenal to slip up, and then they kind of did. Wouldn't say at the first hurdle, but more or less, we getting to a Villa, which was going to be a tricky game, but a game that a champion team should beat, and then going down. That kind of summed it up. City now with a 2-point lead in the top of that table, with probably the best running of the three. You don't see them losing. And look, especially based on tonight. I mean, if they get knocked out by Real Madrid tonight, they've got Chelsea on the weekend in the FA Cup, but then they've effectively got 6 or 7 games left in the season to try and win them a double. And I don't see them really stepping up. To be honest.
It's kind of a case of, listen, they have the depth to go all the way in all the competition, and we know that because they won the treble last season. Is back-to-back trebles completely off the cards? I don't think so. I think
we'll find out in 90 minutes, won't we?
Yeah, I mean, this is their biggest game, right? This is the hardest, probably the hardest game they'll play for the rest of the season. Like, in my opinion, I think the Bayern Arsenal game, it doesn't matter who they play. I don't think it'll be harder than City,
Real
and I don't
Madrid.
think anyone they're playing in the league's harder. Chelsea certainly not, and while Manchester United, I think they'll brush aside the next biggest competition could be Coventry in the final of the FA Cup. The only hope, if Coventry derail a Manchester City treble, that will just be the most unbelievable scenario of just football heritage that there is.
Okay, but
that
let's
could
will be
topped.
very serious here. Eric Ten Hag is going out like Van Halden with an FA Cup win and sacked in the morning.
Yeah, no J Links to save him though.
Yeah, true. We'll bring him on loan.
Yeah, maybe he swings back. But we've got the FA Cup this weekend, Stevie. The semi-finals, that is Manchester City versus Chelsea, and Coventry, Man United, as you alluded to, both at Wembley. So you feeling quite chipper about your likelihood of getting through to the final there?
It's United. I've got no idea what United will rock up. It's the United that drew to Liverpool, beat Liverpool in the FA Cup quarters, and then drew to Brentford and almost lost, and drew to Bournemouth over the weekend. It's so difficult to call what happens. I mean, you can't be losing to Coventry really, so got to go there and get the victory. Could be a smash and grab. I mean, it would be the most Manchester United thing really to have such a terrible season and flip their way to an FA Cup title, and you sit there going, well. I mean, I suppose it's something, but yeah, I'm pretty confident. I don't think we'll go all the way. I think we win this game, and yeah, City or Chelsea, I wouldn't feel particularly confident against either because I think that we were just United. In theory, we should beat Chelsea, but we're a team that are capable of losing that game, and against City, while you're playing against arguably the best team in Europe, so. Yeah, I think we'll be fine this weekend. I think City-Chelsea, I think, could be a bit of an interesting game yet. It is in London, so Chelsea, obviously they'll split the fans 50-50, but Chelsea, will have a big support there. They're also a bit of a weird side. I mean, you think they scored 6 goals, when they're not arguing over penalties. Every now and again, they look like a half-decent side.
The only team that can still be the laughing stock after winning a game 6-0.
Yeah, correct. And deservedly so. I mean, it was the most childish thing. And I enjoy Pochettino coming out and saying, it was ridiculous. Basically.
It reminded me of Kepa refusing to go off in the Carabao Cup final, just saying to Maurizio Sarri, no, I'm staying on for the penalty shootout, proceeds to lose the penalty shootout. I wish, but the best thing about that, I forget who said it, so I can't credit them, but someone said, you don't see Madueke and you don't see Nicholas Jackson begging for the ball when it's to draw the game versus Manchester City in the rain. You don't see them wanting it then. So why the hell are you asking for it now? Give it to Cole Palmer.
And that's why
this season. What?
Yeah, and Cole Palmer's he's in the golden boot race. I mean, yes, literally 50% of them are penalties, but he's in the golden boot race, so of course he's going to grab it. And
of Chelsea's goals though, so you still have to give the man some credit. I don't think he's missed a pen since he's been there as well.
No, he hasn't.
So ice cold. I mean,
and I enjoy Conor Gallagher getting involved and telling Madueke and Nicholas Jackson to basically bugger off and said, "Listen, he's the penalty taker, therefore he's taking it."
I really like Conor Gallagher. I think he's actually without him, I think at Chelsea this season, he's been one of the only kind of mature heads there who's kind of been giving them consistent performances. But maybe an upset versus City. They'll be leggy after tonight, and they're playing Saturday kickoff. And Chelsea will just be
and it's Chelsea side with nothing to lose.
Absolutely nothing to lose. And they had nothing to lose versus Liverpool's under-21s and still lost that, so we can't bank on that either.
And look, they've got a mental few weeks, because they've got Chelsea and they've got City on Saturday, Arsenal on Tuesday, Villa on Saturday, and then Chelsea on the 2nd of May. Spurs on the 2nd of May. It's ridiculous.
And also Spurs play, I think, every single one of the top 4 still with the league remaining. So they've got a hell of a run in. It's nice though. Good. There's a fight.
And all of them in a row, hey? So the Spurs go, they've just played Newcastle, they now got Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Burnley, City. How's that for a run in?
Jeepers. Yeah.
And then Newcastle again.
Poor Burnley, bro. Got to feel for them in the middle of that. But yeah, I mean, it makes for a good relegation battle in the Premier League this season, a good top 4 race, and a good run in, or hopefully. Could be a City walk-in, but let's see how that goes. I was about 60% confident. I've gone down to about 6% confident in my boys Liverpool, but yeah, I've come to get used to it. Let's move on
Speaking
to
of get used to it, as we move on to the cricket, do you think we're ever going to get used to RCB always having somebody at the top of the run scoring rate, always having the best batting lineup in the competition, and being stone dead last with one win from 7 in the IPL?
Yeah.
It's the most ridiculous franchise I've ever watched.
Yeah. How Virat Kohli is still loyal to them, it boggles my mind. Just go somewhere else. They're not building a team around you. They're just
They're not serious, dude.
Every single time. Like 3 batsmen to do it. If RCB couldn't win an IPL trophy while they had ABD, Virat, and Chris Gale in the same team, and Maxwell, but was he there in that era still?
I think he came towards the end of it.
But just those 3 in their prime, you're not gonna win it with just a batting lineup. Like news alert, come on, guys. Yeah, it's just the most RCB thing to have Virat Kohli as the leading run scorer by like 50 runs, and then to be at the bottom of the table. I'm a Delhi Capitals fan, and we are just a horror show of a franchise as well. But I'm so glad we're not RCB.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see. I mean, Mumbai as well. The financial giants in the IPL, and they're sitting down in 8th. Rajasthan Royals, who've always been a bit of a strange franchise. I mean, they're 6 from 7, and so cool to see them getting this job done. Sunil Narine single-handedly just dragging KKR through.
At what point did he move from like an unbelievable spin bowler who could do a bit of pinch hitting,
contribute to just one of the best batsmen in T20 cricket?
Yeah, he's literally third. He's tied third for runs scored, 276 runs at an average of 46. Like, what is that? Like, this guy has been ridiculous. I think I missed this transition somehow of him becoming this unbelievable world-class player, and it just shows you kind of the talent that West Indies still have if they wanted to put out like a full-strength team.
But is that not just the typical West Indies thing of becoming in as a bowler and basically ending as a batsman? You look at a Karen Pollard, you look at an Andre Russell, and all these guys who come in as bowlers, and by the end, I think West Indies they just love batting. All the players just love batting.
Well, Stevie, to be fair, it kind of contributes to a bigger conversation that we wanted to have. And is there anything kind of left for your average bowler in T20?
Yeah, well, why would you want to be a bowler?
I mean, we've seen the highest ever score again for the second time. Sunrisers setting 287. And to be fair to RCB, they actually came pretty close with 226. That's over 500 runs in 40 overs. I mean, ridiculous stuff there. Like Travis Head, 100 runs of 41 balls. And it's gotten to the point that if you score 100 off 70 balls, you're actually wasting time. It's not that impressive. You need to be at 150 plus, 160, 170
plus, yeah.
Like it has to be, because people just aren't going out. And it kind of begs the question of what T20 ends up being. And it kind of always has been a bit of a circus show of cricket, and the spectacular, bring in full crowds of people who don't necessarily love the sport but are there for a good time. You can't necessarily say that for India, to be fair, because they are obviously diehard cricketers, but certainly that was the tactic for the SA. But
that was the point of the format.
But it's hard to know whether this is successful or not. I don't know what your opinion is on it.
Yeah, I don't know. See, the problem is I look at it as a cricket fan, and you always test cricket, for example, and the longer formats, and it's the competition, isn't it? Ball versus bat. And at the moment, you kind of feel that you might as well just take a bowling machine and line up 120 balls, and see what happens, and see who you can clear the boundary the most. Because 287, you just score 260 runs and lose in a T20 game it's getting a bit moronic.
That's probably going to be the top 5 scores ever in like IPL history, and you're on the losing side.
Yeah, and is it that entertaining? My gut says that, maybe now, every now and again, in the select thing, it's been cool to watch. But if every game goes this direction, I don't think it becomes entertaining. I mean, you're a bowler and an economy of less than 10 starts becoming good. I think that becomes a very, very dangerous place in the game. They're not taking wickets, for example. I mean, Sunrisers were 287 for 3. Even RCB were 262 for 7. So, it's not like, being bowled out. Look, today Delhi Capitals, complete opposite, got bowled out. Jared Tyler's like 89 or something City, but that was a bit more of an exception than the rule. The question is here, Scholtz, is how do we fix this? I mean, for example, Gold's talking about, the rollback of the ball to try and make sure that the ball doesn't go as far. What do we do? You can't make the grounds bigger. You can't just go and say, right, we're going to make grounds bigger. Is this do we have to now make more regulations about pitches to be a bit more, less flat, I suppose, more competitive? Do we have to start putting more regulations on bats so that it's not so easy to clear the boundary?
I think the most obvious thing is there has to be something in it for the bowlers, right? I think that's just obvious, but you still want it to be entertaining. So I don't know if it's like an introduction of like a 2-piece where the ball swings more. I mean, no one hates the stumps being knocked over and cartwheeling, right? No. There's nothing that's not entertaining about that.
I mean, you see a ball that starts on middle, just deviates slide, takes the outside edge, regardless of the format. You watch that and you think that's just class.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think you need to be necessarily a cricket fan to admire, an unbelievable Yorker or an in-swinger that kind of goes between bat and pad. I just think the pitches can't just all be roads as well. Like, obviously, there going to be times where it's great. And, everyone speaks of, like the 4-3-8 game because it is this mammoth total and you chase it down and it does create for good watching, but only I think when it happens on occasion and it's just
it was an anomaly, and that's kind of the point.
200 runs what used to be a very, very competitive score in T20 cricket, and that isn't anymore. And perhaps it's down to, I think, also these cricketers are now taking their physicality a lot more seriously. It used to be
power hitting,
game.
Technique is going secondary to just the raw power. I mean, you watch some of the shots these guys are playing, and it's a power game. That's why Andre Russell has become so effective, because he hits the ball a bloody mile.
Yeah, and
he mishits it and clear the boundary with ease.
With continuously improved bats, they're also just flying. They're lighter and they're hitting the ball further. They'll break much sooner than the old English willows would have. But it is exactly that. You don't have to time it to hit it for 6 anymore. So I think there are a lot of contributing factors. We love watching runs, but there just needs to be something in it for the bowlers, so that they, as you said, 10 runs and over shouldn't be the most admirable thing, or less than 10 runs and over should be the most admirable thing for a T20 bowler to get. I mean, dot balls are just coming at a premium nowadays. It's really kind of a rarity to see. Stevie, let's quickly reflect on some of the South Africans' performance this World Cup, just because we've been keeping everyone up to date who's been listening for the last couple of episodes. We still have Heinrich Klaasen up top of the South African rankings. Kind of slowed down a little bit. Strike rate now sitting at 199.
That's actually unacceptable, really. I think out of the World Cup plans, needs to cancel the contract.
Yeah, but I mean, still 253 runs from him. Faf slowly starting to find a little bit of form now at an average of 33, 154, sitting in a kind of 11th position. Tristan Stubbs also now continuing to contribute. Obviously, he had that big 71 not out at a strike rate of 190. Quinton in and amongst it, 174. Markram been a little bit disappointing. Strike rate
started well.
Started well, but now striker at 125. I think he needs to kind of pick up his game. And now Miller, unfortunately, coming back from injury, only scoring 2 tonight. So sitting on 79 runs after 4 innings. Not a great start from him, and still only seen the 2 innings from Brevis. But we're still seeing the skeleton of a really strong batting lineup there. I think I'd like for a couple more of them to kick on and kind of show some big time performances. But as we mentioned in previous episodes, it's such a long tournament.
Yeah, I think, yeah. I mean, for me, I've seen enough to know that, for example, from a talent point of view, I think we still can boldly say we've got some of the best batsmen in the world. Australia and India are looking really good. And I mean, look, Josh Butler starts batting like he's batted yesterday or the day before. And it's an interesting, T20 format. It's such a short format that one player can really win you games. That a T20 century, for example, like a Travis Head, 141 balls. You can go out there, do whatever you want, get a couple of edges, and you'll find your way to a 230 quite comfortably.
Yeah.
I think we started off really well. I've been very impressed with Stubbs. Faf's looked much better. Again, Osprey going to bow out, and he's under a lot of pressure from a captain's point of view. I don't think it's his fault. I think at the end of the day, it's about you say a poor workman blames his tools, but he's got a bunch of tools bowling for him at the moment. So what can he really do?
He's got tools bidding on players is what his issue is.
Yeah. I mean, you just look at the auction, and in fact, must look at that. Go, guys, like, what am I supposed to do with this?
They're kind of hoping for Cameron Green to score, 500 runs over the tournament and take 50 wickets. That's just the kind of the pressure that they're putting on like an all-rounder in this type of format and with the tactics that they go for. It hasn't worked up to this point. I don't think it will ever work. But
can we talk about somebody I want to talk about? I mean, we go through the bowlers, but KG, who do we lead, we can take at the moment. Gerald tied with him, a bit more expensive. KG looking a bit better from an economy point of view. No. Andres had some good goes. Unrik looking really poor, but I'd really like to talk about Kesh.
Yeah,
who got a game.
Finally.
Got a game.
Two games.
Bowling. Two games and looking tidy, looking in an IPL where people are taking people to the cleaners. 2 wickets already, nice and tidy economy of 6.5. I mean, he is the hardest working player you'll ever come across. The most quiet, humble, non-assuming type of character. So for him to get a contract, go over BUs, and then be so effective, I think is so cool.
And it's the most got to be the most frustrating thing. Because, I mean, no one picks what they're good at in cricket, right? And if you're an international spinner, you just really have not struck the golden pot because India has more than enough spinners who know how to get the most out of their track. So
you have to be able to bat. Yeah. You have to be all around it. You have to be able to contribute with the bat. That's why Shamsi will never play IPL because you can't bat.
Yeah. And, they have spinners that can do it, but like you're just so stoked for someone like Kesh, who, as you know, as you said, is just like so humble and just kind of waited for his opportunity. I mean, only going at 6.5 and over in this IPL, ridiculous. Hopefully he continues to get a couple more games. He's going to be our frontline spinner for the World Cup, so we need him kind of continuing to produce on that level. But just exciting. It's always exciting when you see an international non-Indian spinner in the IPL because it's just such a rarity.
And who would have thought that at the moment the two South Africans looking potentially the most likely to win the IPL would be Nandre Burger and Kesh.
Yeah.
In that Rajasthan Royal side, which is just mental at the moment.
Yeah, no, they're looking really strong. I still, you can never discount CSK as long as Dhoni's
they know how to win.
His mere presence just subtracts 20 runs off the other team, just his presence behind the wickets. And he'll probably be doing it still in another 10 years' time.
Correct.
Still hasn't cut his hair. More.
He'll be keeping with a Walker.
But there are. I think there are a couple of good outfits. But as we said, it often games can just be swayed by like literal one person just going absolutely nuts. And everyone's kind of given license to be fair. No one blames you if you go out while swinging. No one's protecting their wicket. And that's just kind of the pitches that these guys are being given, to be fair, and going for.
Yeah, 100%. Dan, should we get to your favorite part of the show?
Let's do it, Stevie. And I haven't told you about this, but I've got a proposition for you, because I think this whole going back and forth and deciding, what we think the score is going to be and who's going first. I feel like this is what's getting me down here. So I think we need to go. I think we need to do a little 3-2-1, and at the same time say our scores. How does that sound? Because I think this is what I need for the tides to turn. If it doesn't work this week, I'm happy to go back. But I think this might just be what is needed to get my season back on track. How does that sound?
Yeah, okay. No, we can look. I mean, at the end of the day, whatever's going to make this competitive, because that's a bit like Scotty Scheffler right now. Cool, I can rock up, I can win a green jacket, but if I'm
give me
not
my
in the try,
handicap.
it's
This is my handicap. Either that or I go second on every single one. But I don't think that's fun for anyone. So let's try it for this week. Let's try it. Let's see how it works. So we're going to start with Bulls Munster. Bulls hosting the Irish club team as they fight for, they're probably both. I'm not sure if Munster can quite get to second, but Bulls definitely wanting second position in the URC. Obviously competing with Glasgow there as well. Stevie, have you got a score in your head? Tell me when you're ready.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you going to count us down? Or?
Yeah, so we're going to go team by number. Okay. 3, 2, 1 after 3, not on
Bulls
3.
Okay, so then I'll go whatever.
If you just go, okay, I can really Bulls. Okay.
Third in there.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Bulls by 12.
Bulls by 12. Oh, man. You see, it's just already gone off. It's gone off. It's done. We're going to have to redo the entire thing. The entire congregations has fallen apart at the first hurdle.
Want to budge? Or shall we go again?
Bulls by 15.
Okay.
I'll budge. I'll budge.
Okay, sure. That's nuts. You see, we're already drawing a bit of likeness there. We're already drawing a little bit of likeness. Okay, second game. Glasgow versus Sharks. The other team. Looking good. Glasgow at home.
I think if you just predict based on you had your chance to research before the show. So, if you don't do your research and don't check, then the Sharks are away though.
The Sharks are away. Okay. I'm ready when you are. You count us down this time.
All right, cool. All right, so 3, 2, 1. Glasgow by 8.
By 3. What did you say? Glasgow 8.
Glasgow by 8. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about that one. I don't know if the Sharks will send over a good team. Okay, and then last one, FA Cup semi-final, Manchester City versus Chelsea.
So we're gonna go 3, 2, 1 team and then score, hey? As opposed to by 3, 2, 1 City 4-1 or 5-2.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay.
Yeah, you ready? You counting us down yet?
Yeah, I'll start. 3, 2, 1 City
3-1.
Okay.
There
we go. I was thinking 3-1. 3-1 was I feel like that's the obvious score though. Cole Palmer 2 penalties, classic. And Madueke and Nicholas Jackson 2 arguments. Jokes. I don't know if they want the smoke in Wembley.
No, they won't.
Okay, well let's see how this works. Maybe listen. I'm clutching at straws here, but I need something to turn. Jeepers. Stevie, before we wrap up, we said we would check in with the Champions League and give an update on the score. And everyone here will know kind of what's happening because the game is already done. But the only difference is, and it's good news, is Real Madrid are beating City.
Madrid are ahead. Up Madrid.
Come on, Madrid. Come on, Bayern. Just knock them out. I mean, it's not good for Liverpool's chances in the Premier League, but I don't care.
I want 2 things. First of all, I want to see City drop it because I can't have another City treble. And then I want to spend my day tomorrow fetching Arsenal fans.
Yeah, no, they're going to be catching. They're going to catching a lot of water.
No, let's catch all the strays. I mean, just before we started the podcast, I just did a little quick scroll on X and saw a post from an Arsenal fan talking about Saka being better than Bale. I was just like,
wow.
You guys you just don't help yourself. I just don't understand. Every single time I try to give you the benefit of the doubt, I see a post like that, I'm like, no, guys, come on.
Yeah. And it's always poor Saka, the most likable guy, right? Don't make me hate him. Don't make me hate him.
But you're doing a really good job.
I don't want to. But a fascinating game there. Stevie, thank you so much. Thank you kindly.
I hope your week improves. I hope this time next week you're getting a bit of time there, eh?
Yeah, we're working. We're going through the mud. What we didn't touch on was actually chasing the sun, and we'll give a good final round review of that. I mean, it's on its way to being just number one on my list of sports documentaries. But we'll give it maybe a whole season, full 5-episode review after this Sunday. And even better news if you're a rugby fan, Squidge is releasing the Rugby World Cup final video finally that's been taken down off YouTube. So we've got a treat this weekend, Stevie. I can feel the tides turning, and none more so than my score predictions, hopefully.
Yeah, well, look, Lions to beat Leinster and United to FA Cup final. So I'm set for a good weekend.
Okay. Calm it.
Just speaking to existence. Right. Well, Dan, thank you very much. To everybody else, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel and follow the podcast on whatever you're listening to. It's available on all your favorite platforms as usual. And you can find various clips across the different various sports channels and stuff like that if you'd like to check us all out on all of those. And we'll be back next week, same time, same place. And this has been Between Two Fans. The two fans are off to go and watch some footy. Which one are you primarily gonna focus on?
There's only one game, Stevie. There's only one
Bayern
game.
Arsenal.
No, but you had me. I thought you were being serious. No. Footballers know that. Yeah, that's the best game in the world right now. But let's not miss any more. But everyone, thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe and share with all your Arsenal mates, because I think they might be crying in the morning.
All right. Hopefully they are. Cool, everybody. We'll see you next week.